All right, hi everyone. We're up to at the end of day 2 at APSAD and just looking at the highlights of today. What did you think? What were your highlights?
Well, for me, the highlight was the morning session by Baker, which was around just again showing us the effectiveness of using motivational enhancement and CBT for working with people with substance use issues, but also about the need for us to not be having a silo approach, to be incorporating, looking at changing multiple behaviours, including lifestyle and physical health, mental health, and drug and alcohol.
Yeah.
And that was good for me working in the Catalyst programs, thinking about how that's applied there.
I really liked her quote when she said the dual diagnosis is in the person but not in the systems. I thought that was a very choice quote. That really summed a lot of up.
And there was I saw a couple of times today. Margaret Hillard sort of referred to invisible populations, and there's no such thing as invisible group. There's just groups that are chosen not to be seen.
That's very cool.
And there was a few references today about this group is invisible and that group is invisible, and it seems to be quite an emerging theme. This time. How about you, Con?
I had quite a few highlights. The thing that struck me was just how the interest generated by a poster, to be honest, and the people
talking about
our poster, and people coming around and genuinely asking and realise just how we're ahead of the pack. We're ahead of the pack. People genuinely interested in wanting to know how it started, what levels we're doing, how it actually started, how it evolved, and that was that. But really, what struck me is when I was listening to professor or a doctor. That's every second person you met there is a professor or a doctor. When they're talking about how they do the psychological testing on children, how they use adult scales to measure children, and how they're now finding that most of their research has been out of whack because of that, because of the differences, and they need to rescale them. And that's a big ask, because that means they have to change the DSM-V and the IDC. They've got to change them because they're so entrenched. See, I do pay attention.
You pay attention.
I thought it was interesting today. Like today was a lot more treatment relevant. It wasn't just sort of straight research, and so that was good. Like people like the CBT and the motivational interviewing.
That was cool.
And the women's workshop about engaging women.
A lot of stuff about treatment accessibility with women and with LGBTI communities and transgender. There was like a really interesting. I think Lawrence went to a transgender session this morning, and it was just talking about like how no services really have any protocols in place, like how to deal with transgender clients, particularly in residential services.
The ultimate invisible group.
Absolutely.
Well, not just invisible, but services. They might recognise it, but they don't know how to deal with it. How do you protect the rights of a transgender client in a residential service if they're likely to be subject to stigmatisation or even violence from other clients?
Or if it's gender segregated in there, and how does that work out, and where do they fit in that system, and how's the community going to respond?
And even on our forms, we're still asking male or female.
That's right.
Exactly.
I really like Adam Bourne's presentation.
He was great.
I thought that was really good, and I really liked the way he opened up with that terrible article around chemsex and just how stigmatising that is.
It was just like out of a reefer madness.
That's right. That's right. And then the whole thing around, the questions that he asked, how are we going to respond to people when we know they've had multiple partners, that they are unprotected, perhaps and taking drugs as they're having sex, to help with their sex. How do we respond to that as an organisation? So I thought that was very interesting as well.
But all the funding, how it gets tied into, unless they link it to HIV, they get nothing.
Right. That's right. And they've got some other concerns as well.
Very much so.
Because again, that's the only topic.
Mental health and everything.
Like you're saying, that's the only thing that mainstream population is interested about. Everyone is about HIV transmission. Then that potentially affects people outside that community. So that's when people are interested, but not otherwise. All right.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so that's it for day 2, and we're off to the conference dinner. We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll have to start preparing for next APSAD in Melbourne.
Indeed.
Is it in Melbourne?
Yep.
Oh, not in the Maldives.
Not in the Maldives. All right. See you tomorrow.